Hi guys! Today we talk about crazy, cheeky neighbor. Hope you like this stories and enjoy! Start with user ThrowawayLT22. Caught my neighbor cheating on her husband of 20 years, and I told him about it. I tend to stay up during the nights, and last Monday, I caught a man leaving our neighbor's house at 5 a.m. This happened 3 days in a row. Her husband is a pilot, so he's gone most of the time. Plus, I got a good look at the man leaving the house, and it wasn't her husband. I've lived next to them for 6 years, and the husband has always been super nice to me. He even used to give me math classes before I graduated high school, and he is generally a cool dude. I made a fake Facebook profile and messaged him about it. I told him that a man had been leaving their house every morning, and that he should ask his wife about it. Turns out I was right. My dad and him are good friends, so he confided in my dad earlier this evening. He told my dad that he had confronted his wife with messages claiming she was cheating when he got home. Apparently, she cracked and told him everything. The husband kicked her out earlier today while I was gone. She went to live with her sister, who lives not far. No one knows that it's me who told him about it, and it'll most likely stay that way. It could be anyone in the neighborhood. I know I should mind my own business, but I got cheated on in my previous relationship, so I can't stand cheaters. I don't feel bad at all. Comments. My ex told me to not tell her brother that he was being cheated on. I held it in and watched his girlfriend Tiffany play perfect, knowing she was sleeping with his childhood best friend. One Christmas Eve, he caught them together on the couch and end his life. I will always tell now. Plus, Department 8900. This happened to my brother too. His wife. I was the last member of my family to talk to him before he hung himself later that same day. His 3-year-old daughter innocently told him how Josh and Mommy were taking naps together. The last thing he said to me was how much he hated her. And their neighbors, who apparently knew but said nothing. They got married a couple months later. User Golden Grod. Obviously, everyone should judge on a case-to-case basis, but the way I see it is this. They are going to have one of the loneliest moments of their lives. They can be alone when it happens, or you can be there for them. I have had bad experiences, but was happy to know I have friends who cared enough to put themselves in an awkward situation and sympathize with me, and also did not judge me. This all hinges on what I believe personally, which is that the truth always comes out. If the relationship is on the way out and will be over in a week, I suppose that's one thing. But IMO, it can't go on forever and have that remain a secret. It just won't happen. Low-key pony. When we first moved into our property, there was a couple 2 doors down that seemed perfect. She was running a home daycare out of the house. He would leave around 7 a.m. Kids would start getting dropped off around 7:30ish. The property was immaculately kept. They had a pool off a deck in the backyard, and always had people over on the weekends. Then one day, he came back about an hour after he left that morning. Turns out, she had informed the parents that she had an appointment that day and wouldn't be open. He walked in and found her with one of the daycare dads. Thing is, he couldn't get mad at her because he had been banging one of the moms. Within a year, they were divorced, and the house was on the market. According to neighbors that have been in the neighborhood longer than we have, not one sane person, couple, or family has lived in that house. Second story, from Status Magician 6941. I saved my neighbor's kids a few years ago, and the response was disheartening. Saved might be a broad term, but it's the best I could come up with. I live next to a woman whose father owns the house she lives in. She is 25 years old. She has 4 different children with 4 different men. No judgment, just the facts. She moved in when he moved out his last renters. And it's been a bane on my existence ever since. She adopts pets she can't take care of. She associates with felons and has had them living with her, as well as a convicted and offender who was the brother of one of her baby daddies. I wasn't aware of this until the man moved out, but I was definitely not pleased. One morning, I think it was in 2020, I was smoking a cigarette on my back deck when I heard a thud. I glanced to the neighboring yard and saw my neighbor's then 3-year-old laying flat on his back in their yard. I immediately put out my cig and went down the stairs to see if he was okay. The kid got up as I was walking over and just brushed the grass off his back. I was like, "Where did you come from?" And he points to the second-floor window. The screen is punched out, and his 2-year-old brother is hanging halfway out, yelling, "I want to play outside too!" Long story short, I managed to keep the younger kid inside, gathered the other one, went to the door, rang, knocked, everything. Nothing. I called the cops at that point, but Mom finally answered the door. The cop talked to me privately, and I couldn't believe what he said. "Yeah, you're not a mom yet, right? Well, when you're a parent, these things happen. Now I am a mom, and I can safely say no. Kids do not just fall out of second-floor bedroom windows." By the way, her excuse was she had fallen asleep and didn't hear the kids. The older kid definitely told me his mom had locked her bedroom door and he wanted to play outside. So he just went outside. I don't blame the kids at all. I blame her. She still hasn't learned a thing and still has dogs coming over to my house to be fed. But I can't get over the police response. These things just happen? Ugh, I really did need to get this off my chest. And every time I see her kid now, who is 6 or 7, he says, "Hey, you saved me from when I fell out of the window." Yeah, buddy, I guess. Comments. User Neither Complaint 865. I like to think that I'm not a super judgy person, but seriously, what the heck? Why does the universe give children to people who quite literally cannot care for them, and then not give children to incredible people who want so desperately to be parents? Makes my heart hurt. Next said, "I'm just going to out this here. I was the kid who crawled out of the window onto a flat roof of my house. My mom used to put the blue plastic pool up on the roof when we were done playing in the water, after it was emptied. Don't ask me why, no clue. I was supposed to be sleeping at the time, and my mother also went to sleep. Instead of sleeping, I went roof hopping. The window to the room I was sleeping in looked right out onto the roof and the blue pool. The window was open, summer, but I don't remember if the screens were in. I just climbed out. My mother was young when she had me and turned into a malicious witch as I got older, but this is something that happened when I was 4 or 5. User Emag. Well, okay, I jumped out of second-story windows as a kid. Just snow was piled up to a couple feet below the window, as we were in Montreal or Toronto in winter at the time, so not the same thing. Let's ignore the construction site shenanigans that I engaged in later. As no parents were involved, it was the 80s, and yeah. As I look at the height of my technically second-story first floor, split level, with slab foundation, so basement is ground level. Yeah, I'll pass. Even off the deck into the grass backyard. Kids may be more resilient, but I think you did right. And I'm kinda shocked by the response you got. Third story from Unnamed Picture Show. I think my neighbor may have been murdered, but I don't know where she lives. So one of my neighbors further down the street walks her dog at least twice a day. He's a big pit/lab, super friendly. She has to hold her dog down so he doesn't tackle me trying to lick my face. I wave at them every time I see them. I've been staying at a friend's house since Friday, just hanging out. And apparently for the past few days, my mom said the dog has come by the porch looking for me without his owner. I'm immediately on alert because of how much she walks this dog. I don't know how she wouldn't know where he is. I came home today and walked the neighborhood and I found him. But he seems completely different. He's limping on one leg, won't even come near me even though I have treats, and is so scared. I've never seen him like this. I can't get close enough to check his tags and try to find a number or address, and I don't even remember his name or his owner's. I asked a few neighbors that were outside and no one else knows where she lives either, because the only time people see her is when she's walking by their house. The way everything is playing out, with no sign of her and a complete 180 in her dog's behavior, my brain is jumping to the worst conclusion that someone broke into her house and murdered her. Tomorrow, I'm walking the neighborhood again, trying to get close with the dog, and I'll probably go door knocking in the area of the street I know she lives on to see if I can pinpoint a house to do a welfare check. The police said they can't do anything without an address. First, update. The police have said they can't do anything without an address, and they don't trust the local animal services to do anything more besides give the number associated with a tag or chip a call. I'm not even sure if animal control would be allowed to disclose that information. And additionally, our local pound is infamous for having a high kill rate and spreading parvo. They do have an option where they can scan a chip to see if he has an owner, and then I can keep him for 2 weeks while his info stays on their found listings. And after 2 weeks, if no one claims him, technically, I can call him mine. If the owner is okay, obviously I wouldn't keep him, but that's the only option I can think to do. If I can manage to catch him and keep him at my house, I may have an easier time of figuring out where he lives. Second, update. Walked through the neighborhood with a leash and a bowl of tuna to see if I could lure him out with the smell. No luck. Some neighbor kids and adults have reported seeing him through the neighborhood, at the local park, and at the local elementary school. We'll try again. Final update. For the best possible ending, I talked with one of my neighbors who keeps in touch with everyone. She asked around, we got her name, and it turns out she moved in with her mom. The lab who has been running around, despite looking almost exactly the same, is a different dog. I haven't seen it since, but other neighbors have. I'm glad nothing worse happened. Like I said in the original post, I catastrophize, so I'm ashamed to say I didn't think of this option first. This neighborhood is very old, and hardly anyone moves to or from here, so I didn't expect it. I'm so glad she's okay though, and so's her dog. Next, from Lane Gas. The cheeky neighbor thought he was getting away with it, but ended up in jail. My parents, until recently, lived in the same house for 50+ years. We had 3 neighbors on the north side over that time. The first was a little old woman we'll call Eleanor. She was a hermit, and as such, us young kids were always scared of her. She died when I was a freshman in HS. It took a few years, and then we had a new guy buy the property, Richard. One day, we found him cutting down bushes on our property. The houses had about 10 feet between them. Our property line was 6 feet from our house. He had 4 feet. The bushes were 1 foot into our property. Eleanor never had an issue with them. She was a nature lover, never mowed her backyard. And when she mowed the front, it was with a push mower, non-power, at 6 a.m. My dad and I confronted him and let him know what those were our bushes he was cutting down, and we were not happy about it. He didn't care. He needed to do it so that he could get his cars into his backyard. You have a curb cut out on the other side of your house. You can mow it and have a straight access to the backyard, as the original builder intended. He stormed off, and the next day the bushes were all gone. We watched him drive his cars on our property to his backyard. Oh yeah, these were the cheap porches of the mid-80s, base model 944s. Then, Dad and I decided that we needed metal fence posts to mark the property line. We put them 5 inches on our side of the property line, drove them down really deep. There was very little room for him to get anything past them, especially his cars. When Richard got home, we could hear the yelling and cussing for quite a few hours. Then we heard a car start up and back, and he successfully got one of his cars out, but not without serious damage to the side. Nice-sized scrapes all along the side of the car. Our newly planted fence leaned in toward our property. I really wish at that time that we had stuff we have today. I'd really like to have video of that. In any event, we contacted police about the damage of our property, our newly constructed fence. They gave him a ticket. He tried to claim that we damaged his car, and the officer pointed out that he had no right to use our property unless we gave permission, and it's obvious that we had not. He got the other car out not too long after. Same deal, scraped sides to all hell. This was just the beginning of issues we had with him. Ultimately, we pulled out the metal fencing and put in treated wood fence posts. We sunk them 4 feet into the dirt, then used a wood lattice panel between them. All of this was up to city code at the time. We also extended the fence well into the front yard. Again, Richard was pissed. He began stacking concrete/rocks/wood up against the fence, which is still 5 inches inside of our property line. Over time, it made the fence sag more into our yard. He continued to pile it higher and higher, until one day, the fence broke. All of his crap fell into our yard. Dad wasn't home at the time, so I took it upon myself to relocate everything back into his yard. So one by one, it all ended up near his front porch. As I was getting close to being done, he steps out of his house as a nice-sized rock happens to hurtle right by him. Well, this pissed Richard off. Cops were called. They arrived after I had finished relocating everything. When the cop came to interview me, I just pointed to the fence that was damaged. The weight of the crap he kept putting up against a fence that was well within our property line caused it to fail. I was just relocating the mess that spilled into our yard, back into his. By this time, the cops had been out a few times and knew what was going on. They pointedly asked if he had caused the broken fence. I said yes. I mean, it was the truth. I explained what had happened. They dismissed my throwing a rock at him and wrote a citation for destruction of property. He was fuming when the cops left, and as he usually would do, he left for a couple of hours. Dad got home and I told him the story. He had a good laugh. Richard acquired some signs that said, "No parking by order of the police," and put them out front of his house. At that time, I was driving an old 4-cylinder Datsun pickup. green for you who need that, and I was parking out front of our house. The neighborhood, over the years, has moved from single-family to student renting places. We live in a college town and are within easy walking distance to the school. We had a lot of students parking on our street, so sometimes my truck was parked in front of our house or in front of his. With my sister now driving as well, it was just easier to park on the street instead of playing Tetris with cars. Anyway, a few days after the signs popped up, I noticed he was parking his cars, with the scrape marks still on the sides of them all, out front. Okay, fair game. I parked out there as well. He called the cops, and the ticket lady came out and issued me a ticket. When I asked her why, she pointed at the signs. I asked if they were official and if he had the permit for them. She checked, and no, in fact, he did not. Then the cop showed up. He was questioned why he needed the signs and how he acquired them. He pointed to his house. Let me get sidetracked for a moment. He had been working on renovating his house for 2 years at this point. The house was small, like efficiency apartment small. 1 or 2 main rooms, a bathroom, etc. I had been in the house on a few occasions when Eleanor was living there. He had this, I don't know what to really call it, a beam? It was meant to lift his roof while he did the internal work on the house. It extended 10 feet out the front and back. This beam was constructed of repurposed wood. Small pieces, large pieces, scraps of all kinds. It looked like a puzzle, and while it may have carried a load, it was not structurally sound. It was a local joke about what he was doing and how it reminded me of the forts we would build at a friend's house, where any piece of scrap wood was fair game and could be made to work. Back to the story. He got 2 tickets from the cops and 3 from the city. One, I overheard, was for no permit. This one happened after most of the other stuff and near the end of his time there. I worked as a student operator in a computer lab. I had the late shift a number of nights of the week. It was good money for babysitting computers. Since it was a college campus, we had to park a fair distance away. One night, I looked up and happened to see Richard in the lab. I should also mention that by this time, we had a full family no-contact order on him. I didn't think he was a student, but we got a lot of non-students in the lab since we had publicly accessible computers. No logins needed to use them. He was typing like it was going out of style. Then he got up and left. We did have cameras at the entrances, so I saw him leave. I went over to his machine and pulled the file from the trash that he had been working on. I printed a copy and read. It was about all the trouble the neighbors were making. Hey, that's us! And how he can't get anything done because we keep turning him in. Then the letter went legal. He was trying to write like it was a letter from a lawyer, etc. I laughed it off. He didn't show up again that I recall when I was there. One night, a few weeks after that, I signed out of my shift and went home. It was after 1 a.m. I noticed him sitting in the parking lot in one of his cars, smoking. Okay, I thought to myself, this is interesting. I hopped in my Datsun pickup and started it up, and it was loud. My muffler had finally let go. I took off out of the lot, trying to not over-rev to make it loud at 1 a.m. for anyone but me. I noticed that he took off at the same time and went the same direction. Okay, this is the way home, but I decided to test to see if he was following me. And yep, I took the most out of the way home, using main streets instead of the side streets, which would have been 10 times quicker, only to have him keep following. I went around a block close to the house to make sure I wasn't just dreaming this. And nope, he followed right to the house. I parked in the driveway this time. He parked where he could in front of his house. I woke Dad up, and then we called the cops. I told the cops that I was taking a long way home due to the muffler, and not wanting to piss anyone off, but that I also did a loop around the block, and sure enough, he was following me. They arrested him for a no-contact violation. When I told them about the previous encounter the weeks before at work, they added a second charge. When it went to court, I wasn't the only one there to testify. They lumped another case of his in with it: destruction of public property. After all that had happened, he no longer had a driver's license. He got pissed because he had to take public transportation. He got more pissed when the driver wouldn't stop between 2 stops to let him out. He kicked the windows out of the bus. He went to jail for about 3 months. After that, he lost the house and his cars. We would see him from time to time, walking all over town. Banned from the bus, banned from his house and his cars. Last story from Comm College dropout. I damn hate my neighbor. This just happened right at 2 a.m. It's been a few hours as I'm writing this. I was laying in bed, on my phone with my boyfriend to tell him goodnight, when I heard the loudest pop coming from my bathroom. It was loud enough that he heard it very clearly through the phone. I open the door and turn on the light to find a damn bullet hole in my bathroom wall. It went in at an angle and ended up in my bathroom cabinet. After I realized it was a bullet hole, that's when panic set in, and I called for my roommate on the other side of the apartment. She dialed 911, and the police arrived within a few minutes. They went to question the neighbor. He said he was cleaning it. The officers didn't believe him whatsoever because you don't clean a loaded gun. Guy got arrested, thankfully, and he'll definitely be evicted because we're not even allowed to have any firearms as of our lease agreement. Police found the bullet in one of my bins in my cabinet, and it was damn huge. This thing was fired only a few feet away from my head. I don't even want to imagine if it was fired at another angle or if I was standing at my sink. Comments. Me reading the title. Oh, I hate my neighbors too. This post will be relatable. Me reading the post. Wait, what the heck? User Kitty Noir. Sounds as terrifying as it was. A blessing in disguise to get rid of this guy. He sounds like someone no one would want to live beside. I hope you get a good night's sleep knowing he's not coming back, or cleaning any guns this evening. Next said, I am a gun owner. I take my responsibility seriously. I know where my weapons are at all times, and I know the status of them, whether unloaded or loaded. Because of the current political climate concerning Second Amendment issues, the slightest error will get you locked up pretty fast, especially according to what state you live in and what the ATF considers to be dangerous. Responsible gun ownership is a must. It is life or death. Idiots and those otherwise ignorant of gun safety and the necessary precautions need not have possession of firearms.